Hello and welcome to the Comic Cave. I'm Ramsey, aka Captain Away, and today I'm looking at the collection for the 2014 crossover event, Superman Doomed. Let me just open by saying that you really need to have read the New 52 Superman and Action comics, or at least watch my reviews of them, or not much from here on out is going to make any sense. Anyway, as I've mentioned a lot on this channel, because it's kinda hard not to when talking about Superman, back in the early 90s, Superman died. Don't worry though, he got better. Whatever you may think of the story, it's hard to deny both its success and its influence on the comic industry. Some of that influence may be largely due to DC pushing an agenda based around the success of the comic, but I'm sure at least some of it's genuine. So it's not a surprise that when the storyline was maybe largely erased from history during the reboot into the New 52, despite the New 52 having moments like this where it seems like the story did still happen, DC would make a point of revisiting it in one form or another, and even still less of a surprise that when they did, they would make a big event story around that happening, just in time for the 21st anniversary of the death of Superman. Missed it by that much. So every Superman title running at the time, which includes his self-titled series, Action Comics, Superman Wonder Woman, and Batman Superman, all came together on a story that sees the return of the mysterious villain from Death of Superman, Doomsday. Each of the titles even did some build-up to the event. During the Krypton Returns arc in Superman, a Kryptonian creature called the Eradicator was dumped through a portal into Smallville. In Superman Wonder Woman, we saw Wonder Woman actually fight Doomsday, and he was there re-established as a prisoner of the Kryptonian prison dimension, the Phantom Zone. Both of these titles, as well as Action Comics, also dealt, to some extent, with an organization called the Tower, which raised spooky ghost soldiers to do their bidding. Lastly, Batman Superman introduced the Conqueror Mongrel and his planet Warworld, which is basically the Death Star, and also trapped them in the Phantom Zone. All of these things may not seem like they're related, and that's because they're really not. But they're gonna find a way to tie them all together anyway, so let's find out just how as we tell the tale of the day Doomsday returned to Earth and take this away. The comic opens on Doomsday, killing him some polar bears. Oh yeah, jumping right in there. I mean, if you ask me what's the one thing fans have been waiting 20 years to see, oh yeah, you bet my answer would be, Doomsday murdering a bunch of polar bears. That's the good shit right there. We learn that Doomsday has been freed from the Phantom Zone by the Tower, the ghosty enemies introduced in Action Comics, and they follow him and observe him as he dives into the freezing ocean and, transforms into a giant sea urchin thing, and then is reborn from the urchin, but is then immediately eaten by, I don't know, is that a megalodon or something? What the hell is even going on? Doomsday punches his way through the shark thing and rises to the surface, in the process killing every Tower soldier on a submarine and this random honeymooning couple who we spend 4 entire pages with, only to have them possibly die off screen. We then ignore Doomy for a while as we learn about a mysterious plague knocking out everyone in Smallville into a deep sleep. In investigating, Superman finds some Kryptonian crop circles, and that leads him to the Eradicator. The Eradicator is an old Superman villain who became one of the replacement Supermen in the Return of Superman arc, the one with the super cool 90s shades. And he claims that all planets have an Eradicator that come alive to help planets die. He's the Kryptonian Eradicator, but he was dumped here during the Krypton Returns arc and has been spending his time since then apparently sitting around on bales of hay like they were his throne. We then jump to Lois Lane, who, as we saw during the Psy War, gained some psychic powers which all originally came from Brainiac and 20 people he kidnapped the first time he showed up to Earth in Action Comics. And just in case you haven't been following along with the comics and watching all the little hints they've been giving that this has made Lois evil, they straight up confirm it for you right here at the beginning when she psychically goes to meet with Brainiac, who calls her his bride and, oh yeah, also appears to be a giant space pufferfish now. Because reasons. Why do I do this to myself? Our final big reveal of the setup is that all the people in the bottled city of Kandor that Superman rescued from Brainiac's ship, and were shown to all be in some kind of stasis sleep, have all woken up and are now trying to break out of their container, and as far as I know, there is no conclusion to this plot thread whatsoever. But hey, at least it's time now for some more Doomsday! Oh yeah! So it seems that his little sewer urchin transformation rebirth thing made him even more deadly than he was before, because now he excretes some kind of noxious death gas everywhere he goes that just burns and poisons everything it comes into contact with, including Steel's specialized Stillman armor and even being enough to hurt Wonder Woman, who tries for a brief but not very effective rematch with the monster. So Superman simply punches Doomsday straight to Venus. No, really, Venus, where he proceeds to heat vision him down to scrap. But, I mean, surface temperature on Venus is already around 850 degrees Fahrenheit, which is over 450 degrees Celsius. That's pretty damn hot already. You're telling me his heat vision is significantly hotter than that? That's some hot shit. Supes returns to Smallville triumphant, if a little worse for wear, and a little on fire. Only it turns out Doomsday survived and uses the Phantom Zone as a sort of teleporter, punching his way back into the world in Smallville. That's not good. To save everyone, Superman simply rips Doomsday in half, and then breathes in all of Doomsday's remains to ensure that this time he really stays dead? Okay. You might think he'd spend some time feeling bad about being forced to kill. After all, I mean, the entire arc of Action Comics leading up to this event was him arguing with people that there's always another way, but instead he doesn't seem to hang up on it at all. The only emotion he'll really have now is anger, boiling up so hot that he starts having violent hallucinations, first of murdering Luthor, and later of attacking some trophy hunters. Only that second one turns out wasn't a hallucination and he nearly killed those people. I mean, meh. They were shooting wolves for no damn reason whatsoever, so I'm pretty sure they deserve to die. This leads to Superman full-on turning into Doomsday himself, because when he breathed in all of Doomsday's particles, it became like a virus inside of him that is quickly changing him. Superman, helped along by psychic prompting from the corrupted Lois, is shown as losing control by doing things like scaring the Teen Titans and fighting his girlfriend Wonder Woman, before former General Lane decides to take matters into his own hands and sends John Corbin, aka Metallo, on a suicide mission with a plane full of kryptonite to explode it in Superman's face, which happens and immediately fills the entire atmosphere all across Earth with kryptonite. This doesn't kill Super Doom, as they quickly take to calling him, but instead suppresses the Superman side, allowing the Doomsday side to take control. Sure, you could say the military didn't know and were just hoping that they'd succeed at killing Superman altogether, but that's not the case. They apparently did know exactly what would happen, which means that they judged Doomsday as being less of a threat than Superman. Doomsday as less of a threat than Superman. Doomsday, the guy that we've established as being surrounded by a literal death mist. That guy as being less of a threat than Superman. Okay, Superman and Wonder Woman fight again, and Diana pulls him up above the cloud levels to free him of the effects of the kryptonite. And once he has a little control again, decides the best thing is for him to simply leave the planet to avoid endangering anyone further. Out in space, he runs across Supergirl, who at this point had become a Red Lantern, because her one defining characteristic in the New 52, other than her hatred of pants, was her rage. Despite that, she actually doesn't seem angry at all here, spending her time with her cousin actually cracking jokes, if you can call them that, and smiling that super creepy smile. Seriously, why does her smile look like that? It's so creepy. I hate it. She leads him to a planet that is about to blow up, and feeling a desperate need to help the fleeing survivors, he manages to control his death mist enough to destroy some planetary debris. Apparently thinking that this is enough control of his dark side, he immediately heads back to Earth. His friends and allies have spent the duration of his Star Trek attempting to figure out what is going on. Lana Lang has been investigating what happened in Smallville and has come to the conclusion that the sleeping populace are actually sending out some kind of signal into space. What kind of nonsense Ghostbusters technology she built in order to determine this, I have no idea. But I guess they didn't feel that details were as important as drawing more Superman looking like the world's worst 3D print job of Doomsday. Together with John Henry Irons, who is now geared up in a new liquid metal suit that he earned from the XP he got battling Doomsday, the pair head off into space in a spaceship that's still apparently built at some point, I guess, in order to try and find out where that signal is going. But all they find out there is the cyborg Superman. Cy had previously appeared in Supergirl, where he learned he was Kara's father, Zor-El, now remade into a $6 million Kryptonian by Brainiac to be his herald. And so that's exactly what he's being here, even though we last saw him fighting Brainiac, and the Supergirl Rebirth series seems to pick up on him having been destroyed in that battle, but I can't say I blame anyone for wanting to pretend this series never happened. I mean, yeah. Metropolis, like Smallville, all soon falls asleep, and Wonder Woman investigates to discover Lois Lane being controlled by Brainiac. The two fight, with Lois recreating John Corbin using brain powers into a version even more obsessed with Lois. But even teamed up, the two are obviously no match for the Amazonian princess. And the fight is over pretty quickly, with Lois running away with Metallo's head and Wonder Woman just kind of letting them go for some reason. Because the comic needs to continue happening, obviously. By now, Brainiac has launched the first step of his invasion plans on Earth, which involves some complicated Independence Day style coordination between satellites all across the globe, so that he can create a new psychic attack that will put pretty much everyone on the planet to sleep like he did in Smallville and Metropolis. All the various heroes of Earth work together attempting to stop the satellites because, again, this is Independence Day. Superman shows up to help, but with the kryptonite cloud still covering the Earth, the Doomsday side threatens to take too much control over him again. What? You mean the thing that was so bad it convinced him it was too dangerous for him to be on Earth and is why he left in the first place? Still being there means it's still too dangerous for him to be on Earth? Oh man! What a Shyamalan level twist, am I right? Superman spends much of this time dealing with the internal conflict raging inside of him, visually represented to us in the full Superman 3 style with Clark Kent duking it out with Super Doom inside his own head. Meanwhile, he does get some help in the form of Ghost Soldier showing up, having apparently retrieved Baka from deep in Imperial Subterranea. In Baka's faith and trust in Superman, coupled with the reminder that just because something looks like a monster doesn't mean that it is one, helps restore a small measure of Superman's sanity. He also confronts the Brainiac-controlled Lois, who similarly is being held caged inside her own mind. But with just a few words of encouragement from Supes, okay, in some extremely precise application of his death mist, Lois breaks the control. Meanwhile, Batman, Dr. Veritas, Ghost Soldier, Harrow, and even Lex Luthor have gathered together in the Fortress of Solitude in order to try and find a way to help Supes out. This ends up involving Harrow pulling Zadu out of the Phantom Zone, and then taking control of his abilities to change things between tangible and intangible to somehow, with Luthor's help, target every single particle of kryptonite in the atmosphere and turn them all intangible and pull them into the Phantom Zone all at once. Once the kryptonite is gone, Superman just immediately regains control of himself and helps take down the rest of Brainiac's satellites, which I'm pretty sure is what's happening in this little collage here in case you were wondering. But everything so far was just the build-up, and Brainiac always had a plan B. That's B as in Brainiac. You get it. Seems that while everyone was distracted fighting his satellites down on Earth, Brainy built himself one of them fancy space stargates, big enough to transport his entire ship through. Oh, one of them Ori gates, I see. Real talk for a moment though, if a villain really wanted to destroy the planet, bringing a ship with that great of a mass that close to the Earth would be enough to do it on its own, due to the hell that would play on our tides and everything, but I guess we're ignoring that. Brainiac does with his ship what his satellites were going to do and makes pretty much everyone on Earth fall asleep under his psychic attack. Superman briefly allows himself to go full Doomsday again in order to break his way into Brainiac's ship. Once on the ship, we learn a little bit about the man named Vril Dox, the person behind all the computers and robots that are Brainiac. Here, his goal is retcon from being to preserve worlds before they're destroyed by the multitude, to being that he's attempting to gather enough power to recreate the universe to bring his family back to life. So he's sort of become a less purely evil anti-Monitor, basically. He pulls a very typical villain move of trying to convince Superman to join his side, offering him all sorts of peaceful, promising futures for him and his friends in his recreated universes. But none of it proves convincing enough for Supes, especially since he's attempting to destroy Earth in order to get that done. So Superman just can't let him do it, and with the help of a Death Star laser courtesy of Warworld, firing somehow from the Phantom Zone, Superman destroys Brainiac's ship and pulls Brainiac and himself into a black hole, finally bringing an end to this Brainiac attack. I had to get one in there somehow. Inside the black hole, the events of Convergence occur, which is what's up with this weird random collage that happens here, in case you were wondering, but I'll have to cover that comic at another time. Superman eventually gets free and returns home. Here he learns that Lana Lang's parents died during the attack, but in happier news, she's now dating Steel, and the two of them have decided to stay behind in Smallville and continue monitoring everyone for any adverse effects, probably trying to prevent a thing like what happened with the 20 from happening again. At the fortress, Phantom Zone prisoners seem to have escaped, taking the Phantom Zone projector, Superman's alien menagerie, and Shea Veritas along with them. Also, Kandor is missing, which I guess is because it's supposed to be the Kandor that shows up in Convergence, but I'm really not positive on that. Lois, we learn, no longer having the Brainiac influence inside of her, forgets all about having learned Clark Kent is Superman, and the relationship returns to its relative New 52 normal. Superman and Wonder Woman also get back together, to the great relief of the, 4 people who actually shipped that, and the comic ends with them staring into the sunset together. But I'm not going to end there, because actually the story gets a different conclusion in a sort of sequel in the pages of Action Comics number 40, where Superman apparently falls through, continuity into the pre-Flashpoint Bizarro world, where Bizarro and his Injustice League, with all their backward logic, fight for and destroy their world. And Metallo is the world's greatest hero, which, makes him the villain. But then Doomsday, who's not Bizarro Doomsday, but I guess the one Superman killed at the start of this crossover, somehow also falls through continuity into the world, and Superman, figuring out the backwards logic thing, convinces Bizarro to help him stop Doomsday, leading to my favorite line of this whole thing. Calling Doomsday a fluffy bunny creature. That's too fun. Bizarro kills Doomsday and gets infected with the Doomsday virus as well, becoming Doomzarro. Yep, that might as well happen. He then proceeds to use his killing mist to turn everything into plants and fluffy bunny creatures? Yep, that might as well happen too. He even fights with his own embodiments of his internal conflict before flying off into space, only to immediately return and have everything be inexplicably okay. And this self-aware self-parody is definitely the best thing to have come out of this comic, which means it's best if we get to the breakdown. While some people may be split on just how good of a story Death of Superman was, I'm personally a big fan of it. So everything about this crossover, on paper, sounded great to me and I was excited to get to it. But that just makes it so much more disappointing that once that paper was actually printed out, this is the crap we got. The plot is a mess, especially the incredibly random intro that just kind of jumps around from nonsensical event to nonsensical event like it's supposed to make some kind of sense. It doesn't help that it's mixing together so many different, barely realized plot lines from so many other comics, most of which were pretty bad and did not at all need to be mixed together. And where's the quote-unquote daughter of Brainiac, the Hive Queen? Couldn't spare room for just one more plot thread in this mad jumble? No? The issues of Action Comics included in this crossover I stand by as still being pretty good, at least when taken as a whole with the rest of Greg Pak and Aaron Kuder's run on that title. But mixed with everything here, they often come off feeling non sequitur to the point of just adding to the confusion, and really highlight just how much that series' interpretation of Superman did not mix with the general New 52 presentation of the character. So I'm giving this series a recommendation level of low. I will probably always maintain that this is one of the coolest ideas done in one of the most disappointing ways possible. a seriously dropped ball on DC's part. The collected edition gets one shard of kryptonite. And I probably shouldn't have to point this out, but yeah, that's a bad thing. Sure, it's over 500 pages, with a good 10 of those pages being bonuses, with a bonus cover and a bunch of sketchwork, but it also leaves out all of those cool news site intros from each of the individual issues. Sure, you don't need them, but there's also no real reason to cut them out. Plus, in the end, you'd have to own this comic, and that's not something I'd personally be super excited about. Thanks everybody for watching. I should have another Superman video for you next week before I take a break and hopefully get back to some requests. As always, feel free to leave comments, questions, and requests in the comments below, and of course click like and subscribe so that you can be sure to be here next time. And I hope to see you then, right here, in the Comic Cave.